In today's video, we're going to be taking a full look at the European model and the GFS model's solutions here for the next 10 to 15 days. We're going to be taking a look at a colder pattern for a little bit before the 25th, as we've been discussing, turning warmer after the 25th, again, as we've been discussing, potentially some spring-like storms on the way, bringing some severe weather threats for the central and even the eastern states that we're going to be diving into in this video. So let's just dive right into things and take a look at this European model run first things first. And by the time we're reaching tomorrow afternoon, we can see a cooler pattern in the east as the jet stream is doing something along these lines, but nothing too crazy. We're seeing some marginal cold air throughout the northeast, north central, south central, and southeastern states, and really all of the activity at this point is going to be for these western states. We're seeing snowfall throughout the Cascades, Sierra Nevada there, and the Rockies. You guys have probably heard me say that phrase probably, I don't even know, hundreds of times this winter. That has been the case almost the entire winter, and especially after the beginning of February here and onward, we've been taking a look at repetitive storms coming on shore to that area, and nothing really changes by Tuesday the 20th here. I mean, we have quieter conditions here in the east, again marginally cold. It is becoming a little bit colder along that eastern seaboard, kind of east of the Appalachian Mountains or around them, but for the most part still rather cold in these areas, and then still stormy in the west. Let's take a look here at Wednesday on the 21st, and look at that. No surprise, stormy out west here with massive amounts of snowfall accumulating now after days and days and days of snowfall, and then still rather little amounts of activity in the east. I mean, hardly anything. Still colder along the east coast here again, as this trough is centered right over that area, with no precipitation really in sight. It's by the time we're reaching Thursday on the 22nd that things get a little bit interesting. We have 1,000 millibar low pressure center over Illinois and Indiana. We still have some activity out here for the west, especially in the northern Rockies for Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, into Colorado there. And what we're mostly dealing with is some severe weather along this low. So I'm looking at southern Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, southern Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee. I think that thunderstorms and severe weather are a bit of a threat alongside this one. Nothing too crazy, but definitely the threat is there. It's still 100 hours out, so we need to take that with a grain of salt, but I am watching for some potential for severe weather with this one. You can see that the day after, on Friday the 23rd, this one wants to turn into a little bit of a coastal storm, as it's done something along these lines. It's moving towards the coast here, and you're going to watch it want to kind of ride up the coast. The problem is that the cold isn't too severe along the eastern seaboard. We did see this look like a snowstorm just 2 days ago, but what's really happened is this low that I'm underlining here moves quicker than it used to show on the models, and this area of cold air moves a little bit slower. So what ends up happening is we see that really this one is much further west here than this one is here. I mean, you're looking at hundreds of miles of difference there. What you would really want to see is the center of the trough here and the low right underneath it here. That's where we would get some interaction and some snowfall going on in this area. It's 120 hours out. That's about 5 days, and there's still plenty of time for this one to change, but things are trending in a less snowy direction for this one on Friday into Saturday. And by less snowy, I mean no snow, really, for the most part. And look, it moves out, and it's down to a 991, comes to an end there, and then boom, by Saturday the 24th, we have plenty of cold around the east, and if the low was just along the coast right here, we would be taking a look at snowfall along the coast. But again, that storm and the cold air are about a day apart in timing, and that is the big problem here for Friday into Saturday the 23rd into the 24th. It is extremely cold, though, especially once we're taking a look at Saturday morning through the day into the night, Saturday night into Sunday. But quickly, what we're going to see here is warm air trending in. Again, that 25th time frame we've been watching. We take a look at warm air trending in, the cold air moving out, and activity is expected to return for the west. So let's watch that play out. We reach Sunday afternoon. Things are again looking kind of like marginal cold air for these areas. That is mostly what we're seeing. And it actually just continues to kind of get warmer. By Monday, we see the center of this ridge is somewhere over the central states. These are the warmest areas in here. But we still have a lot of warmth along the southeast and mid-Atlantic coasts here. But look out west, tons of snowfall expected here for the Cascade Mountains again, Sierra Nevada Mountains again, and then the Rockies again. So that's the second time I'm mentioning that within this video, maybe even the third. By Tuesday, what we see is that there is a huge trough now over the west and a big ridge over the east, and we have a low pressure system moving right along that kind of boundary between the warm and cold air, and we have warm humid air rising up through the plains from the Gulf of Mexico. And I do expect this one, maybe even more so than the one before it, to pose a potential severe weather threat. As of now, take this with a grain of salt, but as of now, the models show eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, through Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, portions of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee here. We've been eyeballing this one for a while now, and I think that there's definitely some thunderstorm and severe weather implications with this one. Also, we have a strong low coming on to coastal Canada there along that Pacific coast of Canada, and this is bringing mostly snowfall to the coast of Canada there and then down the Cascade Mountains, so keep that in mind also. As we kind of just keep moving on with this one, this is the end of the model run on Wednesday morning, February 28th. This low is now located over the northern tip of the lower peninsula of Michigan, and then we have a cold front underneath, warm air surging up the eastern states, and I think we're primed for even more thunderstorm activity potentially in this area, as well as severe weather coming alongside that is as a risk. Definitely something to watch. Now the GFS model, let's dive through with this. We see the activity mostly for the west. Again, we get this low, but again, not really looking too wintry. It's still well ahead of this trough, even more so on this model, as we see hundreds of miles of a difference here, maybe even pushing towards 1,000 miles. And definitely very far apart, way too far apart for this to be any sort of major snow system for the overall eastern states. But again, just like that European model, the day after the storm moves out on Saturday the 24th, there's plenty of cold air along the east. So if that timing, it's far apart right now, if it comes together here, then we could see this one return to looking like a pretty major snowstorm. But that is a big if, and definitely something that would be needed for that to be the case. We see that warm up after the 25th on this model as well. And we also get this pretty big severe weather risk on this one, an even stronger low over Nebraska. Cold front developing underneath, warm front up here. It would definitely be in this sector here where we'd be watching for the biggest chance of severe weather. I would say Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Kansas, Iowa, and Illinois. But again, these things are very subject to change. We've been seeing this storm and warm air show up on the models for days and days now, so I think that consistency leads me to be confident that there will be a storm. I think the bigger question here is exact location and exact timing, and that's definitely something that we need to pin down over the coming days and weeks. The interesting thing on this GFS model is that we do return to a pattern like this on March 2nd, where there's very warm and very dry conditions along the west. A classic positive PNA, which stands for Pacific North American Oscillation. All this means is that there's warmer air along the west. What this does is it surges northward up in western Canada, and it causes all of that extra cold air to have to pour somewhere, and that ends up being the east almost every time. And that causes this really distorted trough down to the south in the east with that big ridge in the west. So again, warm air surging here, the cold air has to go somewhere, it pours into the east instead. That's exactly what a positive PNA is. Definitely take this with a grain of salt. Any long-range signals like this at cold air and snow, especially as we're moving into March, are something that I watch, I consider as a possibility, but I definitely don't recommend taking this as gospel, because we've seen these models show this and really it sometimes doesn't end up coming together. But it is interesting that we have some models hinting at colder air for the beginning of March timeframe, and it'll definitely be something that we keep an eye on here over the coming days. Now, the total precipitation, we do expect a whole lot along the west. No surprise there, as we talked about the bombardment of storms along that west coast. We do get a couple of rising spring-like storms through these kind of plains and Midwest states, as well as the Ohio Valley. And this, again, poses some higher precipitation than normal. But not only that, it poses the risk of severe weather throughout some of these areas. And that's going to be something that we're watching for. Total snowfall on the European model here looks about like this. Tons in the west with that cold and snowy conditions, and a whole lot of almost nothing for the east as we see warm and drier conditions. The GFS model is very similar, although we get about 5 extra days on this model run versus the European model run. For reference, the European model only goes out to 10 days. The GFS model goes out to 15 days, and that's the big difference here. All of this snow that you're seeing likely comes in that 10 to 15 day window that the European model does not have. Remember, at the end of this model run, we do return to a colder pattern, and then you did see a couple of minor snow systems move through these areas due to that. So, and again, that's a big if. So definitely something that we're watching, but taking with a grain of salt as far as these areas here. The west is a sure thing to see just feet and feet and feet of snowfall there for sure. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe as we do upload weather videos just like this one every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.